You just think we just, whatever happens, we just shit another player. And everything's going to be perfect. All of our fans think that. You all think that. That's what you write about.
You don't want to be here. There's a specific reason. Not really, I think we did a poor job recruiting if guys are coming in and immediately walking out the door because it was something different than what they thought it would be. We lied to them during recruiting, or we sold them on a dream that wasn't true.
Yeah, right now we have the atmosphere of a JC softball game. That's what we are, a JC softball team. As long as, it's not whether you win or lose. It's like the team that wins is the one that has the most fun. That crap like that. All this stuff that's contaminated America, where they give every kid a trophy and they don't keep scoring Little League anymore.
Now, that's also a second in the West, baby.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I don't like it. It's the only time we're ever getting excited about second. From now on, it's first, okay?
Winning the SEC probably is harder than winning the national championship. Do you know that?
Well, how about the fucking dogs? My language. Turn that damn jukebox on! Hey, buddy, this beer's for you, Mike, and Cousin Shane. That SEC podcast loves the Pirate, and the Pirate loves that SEC podcast. Hail State.
Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy. How are you today?
Yeah, it's a rough one for Cousin Shane over there. I was surprised I even got you on the line here.
Yeah, and I'm not going to act like I'm a huge baseball fan, Mike, because you know that's not true. In fact, I can name on one hand how many times I've watched a baseball game this year in my whole life. Actually, this is the only baseball I've ever watched. I was thinking about, was there something that I used to do? I think I remember, when that Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa thing was a thing. And, I remember watching a few of those just to see a home run, but I cannot remember actually sitting down and enjoying a baseball game. In fact, the last two games that I watched, Mike, was this one where we lost to stupid Texas, and anybody that's listening obviously hates Texas, so horns down still. Mm-hmm. Matthew McConaughey can go to hell. And then the other one was the Arkansas game. That's the only two. So I'm 0 for 2, and maybe I'm the curse. A lot of people are mad that Peyton Manning was there because he is not a good omen to the outcome of our games lately. So, I tried to reverse it, man. As soon as I saw Peyton there, I jumped on DraftKings and I threw $50 down on Texas winning. Oh, and so I'm going to tell you, Mike, first, I don't know if I've ever bet against my university, but it's not bad. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why, because obviously you want them to win. I wanted them to win. If they won, this would be great. But if they lost, I made a little money. So it was I don't know, this may be a new thing for me, because Tennessee loses a lot at a lot of things. So maybe if I start betting the opposite way, I won't be so down because at least I'll have some money in the bank.
How mad are you going to be if the coach leaves for LSU?
Again, another thing. I've got I know Tony V. A lot of people are wanting him to stick around and stuff like that, and Mike, I've defended him. I defended paying him. I would love for him to stay around, and if there was any silver lining, if there's anything that he could do to make the fan base, picked up, so just come out and tell it. Say, hey, I'm sticking around, just kind of like Wolf of Wall Street, I'm not fucking leaving. That's all we want to hear him say is I'm staying around. And if he does that, I think a lot of Tennessee fans would be extremely happy, and they would, nobody's happy after a loss, especially in the, College World Series. This is a pretty big deal. Only 8 teams allowed in there, and but enough of that nonsense, Mike. It's we're a college football podcast, and it's just I love watching all schools win. From the SEC. Apparently, we're the only ones that couldn't beat Texas. So anyway, man, that's where I'm at right now. Obviously, I'd love to see him stick around, but if not, it is what it is. I'll just go back. Just wake me up next time we're back in Omaha, okay?
If you're wondering why we've been away, if you missed it on the last one, I was on vacation, so...
How was it?
Oh, man, it was great. Went up to the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, with the Flying Hawaiian, your cousin Jonathan, your brother. So, we had a good old time out there. But I say that to say this, Shane, because I totally get unplugged. When you go on vacation, you got to get away from everything. So I picked a good time. It was pretty slow, but we still got some news around the SEC. I hope that I hit on all the topics, tried to do my best to go back, do a little bit of a rewind, and I got a little fun show topic to close with. So, you ready to go around the league, brother?
Let's do it!
Now let's go around the league.
My daughters said something about me wearing a visor and need to put on a hat because I'm getting bald. So I'm going to wear a hat from here on out.
I mean, if you look over the next 6 years, I think we played Miami 3 times, Florida State 6 times, South Florida 3 times, Mississippi State once. So who's the SEC teams? I think it's an injustice for the kids. We should mix those games up, and you should, play more teams from the West.
Why don't you start calling around and see if you can get somebody else to play us, and we'll play them. We'll play anybody you can get to play us.
In Louisiana, hold on a second. Hey guys! Hey! I'm having a press conference, okay? Thank you.
All right, so it's funny you were talking about Texas there, Shane, because Arkansas Razorbacks, them Razorbacks fighting Razorbacks there under Sam Pittman.
Woo pig!
Week 2 of the college football season, of course, hosting the Longhorns in Steve Sarkisian's first year as the Texas head coach. And we got some great news here, buddy. I mean, this is expected at this point, but Razorback Stadium officially back to full capacity for the upcoming season. And that is just going to add a little more fuel to that Arkansas-Texas game, which they've already said is going to be a night game. I believe it's the ESPN night game. How excited are you for this one?
Oh, super excited, man. I mean, hell, we're watching some of these baseball games with 5,000-10,000 fans, and you're amped up just because of how excited they are. Now when you start doing it with 80,000-90,000 fans, 100,000 fans in some instances, it's like you forget how loud college football is, man. And I'm really looking forward to it. The excitement's already starting to build. And I think a lot of that had to do with some of these games that we got to see some fans at. And, I'm super amped, brother.
Yeah, and since I've been gone, there's been some shuffling here on the coaching staff. So, before we left, they lost the offensive line coach Brad Davis to LSU. Now they've replaced him. They've kept a coach on staff here. Cody Kennedy, who was the tight ends coach, worked with Sam Pittman at the University of Georgia. He's been at Tulane the last couple of years, and from what I understand, they've had a really solid running game under Kennedy. So now he's the new offensive line coach for Arkansas. But following that move, that left a hole at the tight ends position. And Sam Pittman, Shane, he picked up his Rolodex here and got him a former Razorback, former NFL offensive coordinator with the Titans, Bears, Dolphins, and Jets, Dowell Loggins, coming home. And it's a big deal on the Hill there when a staff hire gets basically like a highlight reel. And that's what we got here from Arkansas, who got introduced to Dowell Loggins here.
With this meeting, I wanted to start bringing back some alumni from the university. The man was the offensive coordinator at the Tennessee Titans. He was the offensive coordinator at the Chicago Bears. He was the offensive coordinator at the New York Jets. He was the offensive coordinator at the Miami Dolphins. That sounds like a damn good resume to me. It won't be long, but I'd like you to give us attention. Everybody, this is Dow Loggins.
Since I was been 5 years of age, I wanted to wear that helmet, the Darren McFadden one, not the shiny red one, the white one. I get the recruiting, Coach Pittman, but I wanted to wear that uniform. I wanted to run out that tunnel, run out through that letter A in front of 70,000 screaming Razorback fans saying, "Woo Pig Suey." And what made me proud as an alumnus is you finally brought back that toughness to Arkansas. You played like a bunch of wild hogs. You played what the name that earned us our nickname of the Razorbacks. You played like that. Proud of you guys. I love each and every one of you because once you're a Razorback, you're a Razorback for life. Coach Pittman, thanks for the opportunity to talk to the team. Appreciate you guys.
We got a problem. We're going to fix it, this, that, and the other.
All right, Shane. So, hey, Sam Pittman seems pretty fired up. I mean, he's you may not know this guy's name, but hell, he's been an offensive coordinator at multiple stops here in the NFL. So I think the Arkansas has got to be pretty happy about rounding out the coaching staff here heading into the new season.
Oh, Dale Loggins. See, is that the guy that fought Rocky? I can't remember. No. Man, I don't know much about this guy. I did a little bit. I don't want to say a lot. I don't want to get too carried away, but I did a little research on him because I'm not familiar with. I mean, you're talking about an OC at Tennessee, at Chicago, at Miami. What else am I missing? Cleveland Browns. I mean,
Jets.
The guy's been the Jets. Some powerhouse offenses. I'm not familiar with him, and I jumped on and did a little research. These last two stops, it seems like he was more of maybe like an Adam Gase puppet, if you will. Adam was basically they were running his offense, but he was the mouthpiece for these two teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you're just melting inside that you got this guy, but there's something to say about experience. You look at a guy that's been in the NFL for more than 10 years and very young. I don't think this is his final stop. In fact, it may be an opportunity to build his resume back up and get back into the NFL. But, a lot of aspiring athletes on that ball club, that's what they want to be. They want to be playing on Sundays. And who better than a guy that's been teaching quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think this is a huge hire. Obviously, like I said, I'm not totally excited about schematics and what he's bringing to the field, but just the experience itself. I mean,
I think the key here, there's two things, is obviously he's not the offensive coordinator. We've got Kendall Briles there at Arkansas, so he's just a tight ends coach.
Yeah.
But I think it's great because there's one or two ways it seems like you can go with these tight end coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And they went with, obviously, an alumni who's very well-versed and, like you said, getting guys to the next level and is probably going to help their special teams. I like the special teams coach they got there, Scott Fountain. He was the Auburn special teams coach, believe it or not, during the kick six. So he's a very good special teams coach, but the Razorback special teams was borderline disaster last year, so maybe you're getting an added bonus there, and just the love for the program. I mean, it kind of mimics Sam Pittman, and that's that's what you want if you're a Razorback, because even if you're the biggest Razorback fan in the world, you got to know more times than not when you line up against Alabama, LSU, maybe even Texas coming in this game, you're going to be out-talented, so to speak. Or, you're just not going to have the roster 1 to 85 like some of those other teams, but you make up with the toughness and your fight and how bad you want it, because half these coaching staffs around the SEC, they got 1 foot out the door already, you know what I mean? Where you bring in a guy like this, he's not going to half-ass anything at the University of Arkansas. So at the end of the day, I'm kind of right there with you. I think this is a great hire, and particularly the timing of it. You could have do a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these tight end coaches around the SEC, they're nothing but recruiters. That's all they were. That's what Brian Niedermeyer was. And, hey, got Tennessee some recruits, but they couldn't coach them worth a damn. And I think that's what you're getting here in Dow.
Absolutely. And they stole him from James Franklin, so that's always a plus.
Ooh, I like that. All right, Shane, so sticking on the Arkansas theme, let's kick it all down to Missouri.
M-I-Z!
for some big news here for the Tigers, and they desperately needed some help at the defensive backfield. They had a couple of guys transfer out this offseason. Hell, one of them even went to Florida, signed with Missouri, and then jumped ship after spring, and now he's at Florida. So Missouri was in a position very dire. I mean, they were looking at starting basically freshman defensive backs, but I think one or two of them's redshirt freshmen, but still, that's not a position you want to be if you're in the SEC with the all these quarterbacks and receivers we got throwing the ball all around. So big news here for Eli Drinkwitz because they reached into Kansas twice and stole them 2 cornerbacks from the transfer portal. I'm going to screw this guy's name up, I'm sure, but Caleb Evans, he was a starting corner there for... Or no, I'm sorry, I said Kansas, but they're from Tulsa. Both these guys were from Tulsa. Caleb Evans and Ollie Green. And believe it or not, Shane,
They both played for the University of Tulsa?
both teammates from Tulsa. Now they're following a position coach, I think, is probably a big key to this. So Missouri hired one of the assistants from Tulsa this offseason. But Evans has played in 23 games, 82 tackles, 11 pass breakups, and Pro Football Focus named him to the National Team of the Week at one point last season. So you're getting a quality player there. And then Green has played in 43 games, 116 tackles, 11 pass breakups, interception. And then, I know this doesn't help the team immediately, but they flipped a corner that was committed from LSU, Marcus Scott. So, man, it's just been a hell of a week here for Missouri in that defensive backfield. And like I said, I mean, you're getting 2 quality players here from Tulsa. And if you recall, that was the bowl game opponent from Mississippi State. And that was kind of a defensive struggle there where neither offense could get much going. Tulsa had a linebacker go in the first round of the NFL draft. They're a defensive program right now.
Yeah.
So you're getting 2 of their better corners. And I think immediately this is going to help Missouri on the field. And, losing some defensive backs, I was kind of questioning, are they going to be able to stop anybody? But, hell, you add 2 guys like this, that's a great sign for the Tigers.
Hell, if you had one, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the fact you got multiple, I mean, they are, you think about some of the schools really taking advantage of this transfer portal, Mizzou, as of late, are really starting to fill out some roster spots here. So I think this is a very, very, this is one of those things that you're probably not going to notice week 1, but, week 5, week 6, when we're in the throes of this thing and we need that competitive depth, that's where this ads like this really start to shine.
Mm-hmm. And that's not all we got from Missouri, Shane, because Eli Drinkwitz was recently on 590 The Fan there in Missouri. And if you missed it, I have hit on this before. I believe the clip that I played was Mac Brown, the North Carolina coach, who moved his home to be within 1 mile of the campus because, for those that don't know, there's an NCAA rule. When there's a period where it's called the dead period, where you're not allowed to host recruits on campus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you live within 1 mile of campus, you can host them. So, hey, all 14 SEC coaches better live within 1 mile of SEC campus. And Eli Drinkwitz talks about that. And he also hit on real quick just the importance of the fans packing the stands. And he really wants Faro Field to be nothing but sellouts moving forward.
Now, when you said move home, like, you talking about physically move or just like moved residence?
Mac Brown physically moved his residence, and then
Like they got sent. What you're saying is they like put this house on blocks, and they like put it on a semi.
No.
Oh, okay,
when he found out this was a rule, he moved. I don't know where he lived, but then he just moved close to campus, and it sounds like Eli Drinkwitz, as soon as he got the Missouri job, he picked a house, across the street for this purpose.
God, I would have loved if it was an actual move. You know what I'm saying? Just the way you said it. One of those. It's like, okay, buddy, you're 36 yards from being within the mile. So we're gonna have to move this thing to the lower part of your acreage here. So, all right, never mind. I'm sorry, I'm ranting.
Eli Drinkwitz. Coach, thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you today?
Very good. Now, look, I got to get this straight. Were you that smart when you moved to Columbia that you knew about this rule that if you lived a mile within the campus, that would count as an unofficial visit? You could bring kids to your house. And did your wife know that was your ulterior motive? Take me through this, because this is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's not about how to get. You don't try to break rules. You try to use them to your favor. And so you got to know the ins and outs. And the NCAA, changed the rules regarding unofficial visits about 4 years ago. And so anything within a mile of campus is you have the ability to take recruits there to eat, visit, or come over to your house. And so, as part of the parameters of our housing search, we tried to see what we could find within a mile of campus, and we're fortunate to find a tremendous home that my wife enjoys and is perfect for our girls, but it also so happens that it ain't so bad for recruiting either.
But what if your lovely bride would have said, I have found the dream house and it's 4 miles away?
Well, I'd have said it. She probably needs to find another dream husband, because we get paid to recruit. So as long as we're paying the bills, we make sure we're recruiting at a high level.
Final thought before we let you go. You alluded to it earlier. What's it going to be like for you running out on that football field, and if you look up in the stands and you see 70,000 people there?
Well, it needs to be. It needs to be 70,000 people there. And regardless if you're excited about, everything that we're doing, we owe it to this state to put a great product on the field, and our staff is working extremely hard, and our players are working extremely hard. And as excited as everybody is about how we're recruiting, I need the fans to put their seats in the stands for recruiting too, because nothing's going to get somebody to want to flip from another school better than seeing how passionate our fan base is. When we signed the Blaine Gabberts, the Darrell Green Beckhams, the Marcus Goldens, that's when Mizzou was selling out for Rowe Field every week. We got to get back to that, because when we do that, then in-state recruiting is like shooting fish in a barrel. So that's what I need out of the fans in order to help us achieve what we all want to achieve.
But I know it's the off season, but Drinkwitz still giving us some gold here. I thought that was hilarious about comments with his wife and everything. But interesting that he's not calling the fans out or anything, but he's just asking them to continue the momentum. You know what?
For starters, his wife clearly does not listen to sports talk radio in her town, because there's no way in hell he would have said that if he had any chance of her actually listening. So, no, she runs. I'm sure he put a nice little spin on things, but we all know these coaches' wives. A lot of them, they're the ones that wear the belt as soon as you get inside the house. So, but anyway, Mike, I think you made some great comments about the fans. They own it to the fans. That's just something you typically don't hear from a second-year coach. Is owing them. You know what I'm saying? Usually it's, hey, the rebuild, let's give us some time, blah, blah, blah. I hope you come out. I think the way Eli's coming out, he's already got high expectations for his players, and he's got even higher expectations for the fans. Because say what you want, man, if you've got a half a stadium full and a third of that is the opposing team, it's kind of tough to have that home field advantage. So I think this is a battle cry, and I like to hear this from my head ball coach.
Mm-hmm. All right, one other note here, Shane, and this is kind of a dual update here for South Carolina and Tennessee, because maybe I was jumping the gun here when I talked about Kansas, because Kansas does have a guy in the transfer portal. Karon Prunty is his name. He was a true freshman last year, started 9 games for Kansas. He was a freshman All-American, according to 247 Sports. They hand out their annual, All-American type awards. And this is, really good defensive back, 10 pass breakups, had an interception, 26 tackles. And he is down to South Carolina and Tennessee. And he says he's not giving a specific date, but he just visited both campuses. He says he's making his decision this upcoming weekend, so we'll update that as soon as Prunty makes his decision. But I think this is a guy that you got to figure at South Carolina and Tennessee, he may be a day one starter here. So, and a little bit more added intrigue when you got two SEC East programs trying to move up the ladder in the SEC, fighting for a transfer from Kansas.
Is there any type of portal deadline? I know that they're letting these guys play. So it seems like out of all the years that we've had this transfer portal, none of them are as important or significant as what we have right now. So I'm just curious, is there a deadline like where these things, after a certain date, there's no chance of them playing year one?
Now, as of right now, no, there's no deadline, and there is some discussion of that. I think it would kind of clean it up a little, you know what I mean? If maybe right after spring football, you got a month or two to do it, and I think that would make sense. Maybe right after the regular season so that you could get in before spring, but just kind of the way it is right now, man, it's just balls to the wall, and you can just enter and transfer and come in and out, and I mean, it's a wild scene right now.
I'm a little worried, coming into fall camp. Somebody's like, wait a minute, I'm not going to be the starter? Well, screw that. I'm going to the other team, or something like that. I don't know. I hear this, and then these guys talking about instant impact on a team.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. I mean, the later we get, the more and more I don't like this portal situation. So
now they have come out. The SEC has come out now. So they've cleared to where you can transfer from SEC school to SEC school.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they put a deadline on that one, and I think it's February 1.
Okay.
But that's just underclassmen, so that's not graduate transfers. That's not, if you want to steal someone from Clemson or Florida State.
Wait, what do you mean February 1?
So if you let's say you're a freshman at Alabama, and you say I want to go to Auburn for my sophomore year, you're allowed to go, but I don't think you're allowed to play unless you make that transfer before February 1.
Okay.
And I could be wrong about that date. It's either February 1 or March 1. It's one or the other, but they've come out and said that, and the whole purpose, I think, is kind of what you're saying. They don't want to go into a fall camp scenario and then have someone say, well, hell, I'm not going to be starting at Alabama. I'm going to go to Auburn, and then they'll have the playbook and everything. You know what I mean? So the SEC is putting restrictions on itself for in-conference transfers, but not out of conference, if that makes sense.
So just to clear it up here, let's just say just a random situation. Auburn, okay? Let's say Bo Nix found out that he was not going to be the starting quarterback going into fall.
Mm-hmm.
Could he right now, we're sitting here at the 22nd of June. Could he right now enter the portal next week, start somewhere, another university, or is it he's got to sit out until the following year?
It depends on whether he goes to an SEC school or not. If he goes to an SEC school, I don't think he'll be allowed to do that at this point because he's an underclassman. He's still a junior.
Okay, I was just wanted to make sure, because I didn't know if the portal ended sometime over the summer. I know you said February, but what if they don't even get to fall camp and one of these kids decide to go to a different school? I was just kind of curious about the dynamics there. So,
Well, this is confusing as hell. We're all learning on the fly. Trust me.
All right, man. All right. Hey, before you go too far, I want to ask you, since we're talking about rules and stuff. Noticed over the couple of days ago, NCAA took a loss, took an L. Can you kind of explain that situation?
Yeah, so there was a Supreme Court ruling here on Monday, I think it was, and essentially what this was NCAA versus a collective of former NCAA athletes that were trying to fight for the rights for current student athletes, and I think it's a little confusing. Some people think this just means like the players can get paid immediately or anything like that. But what this ruling was, by NCAA rules, athletes are essentially treated different than normal students on campus. And by that, I mean there was limits on what you could give them in terms just of academics. So the school could not purchase them a laptop. The school could not purchase unlimited tutoring for these athletes. And that's what this Supreme Court ruling was that you cannot basically treat the athletes unlike normal students, because at the end of the day, that's what they're supposed to be, is normal students. And if you and I were in college and, someone wanted to provide us with something to help our academics, they would not rule us ineligible to be at school. So that's my understanding of it. So this is just going to clear the way for basically the NCAA to not block educated related expenses that the schools can pay for. And my understanding is these schools, as of right now, can buy these things for student athletes. And that's the key word there, though, is educated related expenses. And I've seen some people saying, well, a Dodge Charger will do your math homework for you, right? So it does have Wi-Fi, so we'll see. I mean, Nick Saban down there, he's probably trying to figure out some way to factor this into his local Mercedes-Benz dealership. But I don't think this ruling is not going to go quite that far. But it does open the door, because basically it was a 9-0 decision. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the athletes over the NCAA, and they basically said the NCAA has been breaking the damn law since existence. So not a good day for the old NCAA, and hopefully this means we'll get our damn game a little bit quicker. You know what?
Well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I just kind of, I'm glad you cleared that up, because I saw the news and I was like, what does this mean? So there's still other steps. This isn't, athletes can make money yet, but it looks like another step toward that. Am I correct?
I think you would be 100% correct there.
So if you get 2 computers, I'm just saying, throwing this out, Mike, a man with 2 computers, he only needs one. Does that mean he can sell the other?
Cam Newton would still be at Florida if this rule was in place back then. I'll just say that.
Absolutely.
All right, Shane. So, hey, we love to hit on all 14 teams if we can, and I came up here with a little idea that I think you will enjoy here. So, they've already got the over-unders for all 14 teams. Those have been out for a little while. And I ranked the teams based on how confident I am that they'll go over on their over-under. So, I'm not sitting here debating which way it's going to happen. I'm just, as of right now, how confident am I that Team X is going to go over their number? Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, so just feel free to mock my list. And I know, hell, they've already got their fingers on the button here, and I'm ready for it, because I think some of these are going to be a lot less popular than others. But I'm going to start at the bottom. So, again, I'm not saying this team won't exceed their over-under number. I just think it's the least likely. Does that make sense?
Okay, so when you say you're starting at the bottom, are you going to start the bottom, projected wins?
No. See, for example, I'm going to start with Auburn.
Okay.
Auburn's over-under is 7. So I have the least amount of confidence that they can get to 8 wins next season.
Oh, okay. All right. I see what you're saying. I thought you'd start okay, all right. Makes sense. So out of all 14 teams, you are if you are a gambling man just taking Mike's opinion to the bank, you need to go out right now, put some money on not the over. So this isn't an over-under thing. It's just the confidence of them going over 7. That's it, right?
Right, and maybe if this number was 7.5, I would not be as confident. But hey, Auburn's got to win 8 games to hit the over here, and they go to Penn State early in the year, at LSU, Georgia at home, at Texas A&M, Alabama. I mean, these are some damn...
Yeah.
I don't know about Penn State, but the rest of these potentially college football playoff contenders, and that's before even getting to, at Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They got to go to South Carolina, which you probably think that's an easy W, but remember there's some bad blood there. So I don't know, man. I think Auburn, that is a tough one. I certainly think they can get to 7-5, but I do not see 8-4 coming Auburn's way.
So
this
real
year.
quick, what? So let's just say they're saying 7. You're not that confident. You hate Auburn for some reason. What are the 5 swing games that we're looking at here? I mean, we got Alabama's obviously one that they're considering. LSU's probably the other. What's the Penn State? Is that one on there?
That's probably the big
those?
one. That's the big one at Penn State. Because if you go on the road and you beat Penn State early in the season, they open against Akron and Alabama State. They're going to beat the shit out of those teams.
Yeah.
They'll have momentum. They'll be feeling good about themselves. Then they got to play the night game on ABC. It's going to be nationally telecast. You go on the road and whip up on James Franklin. Maybe you do get that over.
So you think it comes down to a Penn State game?
Well, potentially, because then 2 weeks later you go into LSU and you're playing Georgia. I mean, imagine if you lose to Penn State and then you got that hill. I mean, then that momentum is going to go downhill quick. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So, and we got a first year, staff and hell. Every time I defend Bo Nix, people jump on me. They think he's garbage. I don't think he's. I think that's more Chad Morris and Gus Malzahn. But it's just a tough schedule this year for the Tigers, and I think 7-5 is probably the perfect mark for them right now.
I think Auburn fans are happy to hear SEC Mike say this. I mean, there's a reason we're not retired for gambling, Mike.
All right, next on the list. So least confident to go over, Vanderbilt at 3. Now, I certainly think Vanderbilt can get to 3, but again, so we're just on the over. You got to get to 4 here. And obviously they didn't win a game last year. I think they'll be much improved under Clark Lee, but how soon are we going to get that? And their non-conference games, they got ETSU, that's an easy W, but then on the road at Colorado State, I don't know who signed up for that. I mean, you got Colorado State, you got to get them at home. Stanford, and then UConn. UConn, you could beat them, but Stanford, and then on the road at Colorado State, not doing Vanderbilt any favors there. I certainly think they could split those, but then you got to win in the SEC, and some of the more winnable games for Vanderbilt. Maybe at South Carolina, but it's on the road. At Tennessee, again on the road. I don't know. I think this is a tough ask here to get to 4 wins after not getting any if you're Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I think it comes down to non-conference. Like you said, they got a couple tough ones there. They're not shoe-ins like they have been in the past. So
right.
I don't know, man. But we're talking about a whole different program, different offense, different defense. I like the quarterback play there. Sometimes that may be the deciding factor, but I don't know. That's okay. All right, I'm with you there. I mean, it's tough. I don't know anything. We don't know anything about Stanford. We don't know anything about even UConn. We don't know about. So I like to think that Vanderbilt can beat those 2 teams. ETSU, I like to think Colorado State is definitely going to be a win. So I think it comes down to, I don't know, that 4th game. So do they still win in the SEC? I mean, I don't know. You're not that confident, but Vanderbilt, I think, is going to be a little bit better this year.
All right. I think this might be the most controversial one on the list, Shane. And I'm not trying to be controversial, but I'm trying to prepare folks. Least confident to go over, Alabama, 11.5. So that means if they're going over, they're going undefeated again. And I just don't know if they can do it. I think, you got at Florida, you got Ole Miss, you got at Texas A&M, you got LSU, you got at Auburn, And don't forget Miami in the opener. I think at Mississippi State too. So we'll lose one game. I'm not betting on Alabama to go undefeated for the second straight year. How about you?
Do you hear all them people fast forwarding now, man? They're already moving to the end. See if there's a blooper reel. You know, this may be it right here, guys. This may be the blooper. You never bet against Nick Saban. You never bet against Alabama. There's nothing that I have seen from last year to this year that makes me feel. You're talking about confidence, man. Like I at worst case scenario, I think it would be over, but it'd be toward top of your list. Mm-hmm. You're like pretty confident that it ain't gonna happen. So no, I'm not with you on this one, Mike.
Okay. Let's see if you're on this one. You may be just as cool on this one. Tennessee 6. And again, these round numbers, that's what kill you, because I could see Tennessee winning 6 games this year. I don't know about 7. The non-conference for the most part's a joke, but week 2 they play Pitt at home, kind of like that Auburn at Penn State matchup. This Pitt one, I just got a feeling, Shane, this is going to be one of these games where, Vol Nation probably going to beat the hell out of Bowling Green in the opener. You get some optimism, and then the fans are just going to completely write off or jump on the bandwagon. If Josh Heupel beats Pitt, they're on the bandwagon. If they lose to Pitt, they'll never trust him. I mean, it seems like one of those deals. So that Week 2 game against Pitt looms large. And if they lose that, I don't think there's any way they're going over 6. But even if they do win it, as they should, I think, then you got to win 3 SEC games to go over. So what are your thoughts on Tennessee there at 6?
Well, like the start of the show, Mike, I turned over a new leaf. So I'm going to bet the under and then be happy if they go over. I don't know. I mean, again, we're talking on offense. I have yet to see a defense that I'm worried about. I mean, there's just so many factors with Tennessee football right now. Mm-hmm. But if they can put points on the board, then anything can happen. And that's kind of what you need in this situation. I think they're in a good spot. Don't be surprised. I think that number may go down a little bit. I'm kind of with you. I'm more the confidence. I'm not confident that they can get to 7 or even 6. But I think that people are going to start betting this one down a little bit. And the closer we get to the season, we may be sitting there at 6 is a good number. So. Yeah, I guess, Mike. Confidence, I have none with Tennessee right now, so I probably would have put them at the 14 spot.
All right, how about this one? Same number, different team. Mississippi State, 6. A little bit more confident in the Bulldogs here. And, I think Mike Leach in his second year, I think we're going to see some big strides here from the Bulldogs. But this schedule, man, they didn't do him any favors. You got one automatic W here with Tennessee State late in the year. But coming out the gate, and Mississippi State should beat all these teams. I'm not saying they're going to lose to any of them. But Louisiana Tech out the gate, not exactly a cupcake. NC State, who's decent. And then at Memphis. I mean, who in the hell's doing the schedule for Mississippi State to where they're... I mean, if you don't bring, your A game and you have a couple turnovers, one of these teams could get you. You know what I mean? So if you're going to get over, you got to win the non-conference, which they should. But then right out the gate, then you got LSU at Texas A&M and Alabama. Those are your first 3 SEC games. I mean, this is just a nightmare schedule. And if it was set up a little bit differently for Mississippi State, I'd have a ton of confidence that they're going to get to 7, maybe even 8 wins. But I just don't like the way the schedule breaks down for the Bulldogs.
Who's their East opponents this year?
Well, they always get Kentucky, so that's a dangerous team. And then the other one here is at Vanderbilt, so that should be an easy W.
Oh, my gosh. Mike, you're crazy. This is number 1 on my confidence. They're going over. I mean, not even a question. The 4 non-conference, we could talk about the Wolf Pack and what could happen over there. And, we're talking about Mississippi State team year 2 under the Pirate. We've seen what he's been able to do with all of his programs going into the sophomore season. I think this is there was a reason they were ranked so high. I think Mississippi State is expecting some good things, and to say they can't get to 7 games, that is nonsense. So that is that SEC Mike. So if you want to go ahead and shoot him a tweet, not big orange balls, because I think Mississippi State goes well over 6.
All right, how about this one? We're getting tougher now. Missouri, they're at 7. And, similar to Tennessee, similar to Auburn, the one that looms large, week 2 at Kentucky. If they beat Kentucky on the road, I think they can get to that over mark. But that'll be tough. I mean, that's going to be a crossroad game for both these programs. And towards the tail end of the season here, I mean, it gets pretty rough here. We got Texas A&M on the schedule. That's their West opponent this year. They do get a breather here at Vanderbilt, but then it's at Georgia, South Carolina. That's not bad, actually. And then Florida, and then at Arkansas. So, I mean, the tail end of the season is rough for Missouri. So it's going to be really key that they get that momentum going early. How confident are you that the Missouri Tigers go over 7? So again, they got to go 8-4 to hit this over.
That's a tough pull, man. 8 is a tough number to get to. But if anybody could do it, it's Coach that lives 200 yards away from the campus, Oh, man. This spin zone, Mike. I'm just going to bash everything you say and just talk about how confident. I don't know if I'm uber confident, but some of the things that I saw year 1 with Eli and crew, I don't know, man. I'm almost, well, as a Tennessee fan sitting there in the East, you don't want Mizzou to do well. And it just feels like they grew up a lot last year and was handicapped a few times. And I don't think they're going to have those problems coming into this season. And kind of makes you wonder, what is the ceiling for these guys? So, I'm going to move them up a little bit on the confidence scale just because I think this is a team we're definitely going to talk more about by the end of the season.
All right, next on the list, Shane, same number, same division here, Kentucky, also at 7. So I like Kentucky a lot. They've got a hell of a running back. They've always got a solid defense. They've added some nice pieces, but they're blowing up the offense. And until they have a quarterback, if I knew what they were going to get in this new offensive coordinator and play caller, and I knew what they had in the quarterback, I would be a lot higher on Kentucky to get to that 8-win mark. But until we see that, and hell, I think they're only returning, 4 starters on defense, but they've got depth on that side of the ball. They've got experience, so I'm not really worried about the defense. But if I just, those are 2 huge question marks here, quarterback and offensive coordinator, play caller. If I had those answers, I'd be more confident. But I just think, as of right now, I cannot say Kentucky's going to win 8 football games until we get some answers at those critical areas.
Mike, I'm telling you what, you are digging yourself out. Why did you even create this segment? Just to piss off 14 teams, 13, I guess. You're going to let one off the hook here. But I'm going to go over, man, because why not? Why the hell not? Kentucky does have, we don't know who's quarterback. We don't know who's throwing up the offensive plays, but newsflash, it can't be worse than it was last year. It feels like anything they put out there is going to be an improvement. And if they do get a little bit more balanced, I think that's even more scary for teams of the SEC East. But it's funny when you look at trying to predict wins and losses, there's a lot of those bubble games that comes down between Kentucky. You think about Mississippi State. You think about Mizzou. I mean, it's going to come down to a few of these games. And if Coach Stoops showed us anything, he has the ability to win them. So I like the confidence. I'm glad they're on the top of your list. Because they got a deep. I mean, hell, they got some of the best running backs in the conference. Hell, they may not need to throw the ball, but I think that I just think that offense is going to improve regardless, and I think that shows in wins and losses this year.
All right, this next one was really tough to peg, Shane. I'm going Texas A&M. Their number's 9.5. So they'd have to get to 10 to get that over. They've certainly got the team to do it, and I think they got the schedule to do it. But so they're in the more confident side of the bracket, but still, you got Alabama, you got at LSU. Let's say I'm not saying they're going to lose those games, but let's say you do, then you cannot lose a single other game. And I think that Texas A&M, based on the strides that we've seen them make under Jimbo, they're more than capable of going 10-2. But it's not going to be easy, and there cannot be any hiccups on this schedule basically, unless you do beat an Alabama or you do win in Baton Rouge. What are your thoughts on Texas A&M 9.5? What's your confidence that they can get to that 10-2?
Oh, they're number one on my list, Mike. And the reason is because here you're talking about two possibles. You're talking about maybe LSU, maybe Alabama. You're talking about 50-50 games right now. Those are games that Texas A&M could win. It's a game Texas A&M won last year, so I'm not going to say LSU is going to beat them this year. So now you're buying yourself. Okay, so say they win one of them. Okay, they lose to either Alabama or LSU, so you still have the ability to lose to one other game, and one other surprise in your schedule. And I just don't see it on there. I think this is a big year for Texas A&M, so uber confident that they're over.
All right, how about this one, Shane? Ole Miss 7.5. I like this number a lot, based on I've been going back watching a lot of Ole Miss. We all know how good Matt Corral in this offense was last year, but he had basically 2 meltdown games against Arkansas and LSU, and they lost both. But particularly that LSU game I'm thinking about, they almost won it, and there was like 6 turnovers by Ole Miss. Yet when you turn the ball over 6 times and you lose by 5 or 6 points, that tells you probably should have won the game. So if they can avoid those meltdown type performances and not have so many damn turnovers in crucial moments, Ole Miss, Matt Corral, he might be the underdog Heisman candidate of the season here. So 7.5 over. I think Ole Miss could easily get to that 8-win mark.
Yeah, what's their? I know we did a breakdown a while back, but what are their 4 non-conference again?
So they opened the season in Atlanta against Louisville.
Okay.
Should beat the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Austin Peay and Tulane up next, so those 2 more wins. Yeah. And then this one's a little tricky, but still should beat the hell out of them. Late in the year, Liberty, Hugh Freeze. Remember they were ranked last year, but hell, I don't think they played anybody but their sorry ass teams in their league. You know what I mean? So that'll be entertaining for about a quarter. So Ole Miss will go 4-0 in the non-conference.
Yeah, I'm going over then. So we're talking, but 3. They got to win 4 more games out of there. So yeah, I like that too. I'm not as confident as an A&M, but I like that it's at the top end of this list.
All right, how about this one, Shane? I've kind of come full circle on this team this offseason. Florida at 9, and I'd maybe have them a little bit higher, but that 9. That's tough because there's no middle road there. You know what I mean? Like getting to 10 games, again, they got Alabama coming to town. They got to play Georgia and Jacksonville. So if you drop those, you cannot drop another game. And they got at Kentucky, which Kentucky's played Florida pretty tough the last couple of years. At LSU, that's no gimme. You got Florida State on the schedule. I'm sorry, they're going to beat the hell out of Florida State. But who knows? At Missouri, Tennessee, well, hell, they always beat the hell out of Tennessee. But that's why I got Florida so high on this list. It's tough for me to see them losing many more games than... And hell, I'm not ready to write them off as automatic losses to Alabama or Georgia yet either. I think people that are doing that are kind of foolish. So I would be very surprised if Florida lost 4 games.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Because I don't think, even though I talked up Alabama, it's like Alabama and Georgia, you can't pencil them in as an automatic win. Yeah. I mean, hell, you saw what happened last year. So he gave them a run, both of them. So in fact, won one of them. So you're saying Florida can't have 3 losses. So I mean, the other option would probably be the LSU game. That's going to be a close one. It's always a tight ball game, but I'm pretty confident out of those 3 games that they can win at least one of them. So if not all of them. So yeah, I'm pretty confident they go over as well.
Now, here's one of my favorite ones on the board here, Shane. Arkansas at 6. If they can get over Texas, which, hell, we've been saying all offseason, they're going to beat the Longhorns' ass.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to give them 4 easy non-conference outside of Texas. So they'd only have to win 3 SEC games. How many games they win last year in the SEC, Shane? They won 3 of them. And I think the Longhorns are going to be, the Razorbacks are going to be much improved in a year or 2 under Sam Pittman. So I think Arkansas, too many people sleeping on the Razorbacks.
Who's their East opponents again?
So they always play Missouri, which, hell, they've never been able to beat them. But, they should be on par with them this year. And then the other one is going to be tough. At Georgia.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know, man. You're very, very confident. So you're already penciling in 4 non-conference, and you're saying that they're going to at least get 3 more during the season. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this is number 1 on your list?
Not yet. We're getting close though.
Oh, okay, man. It's tough because, like you said, they got a tough draw. Mizzou, it's not like you can't just say, oh, man, hell, they're going to beat Mizzou. Well, you have it. You know what I'm saying? That's always a tough game. It's a rivalry. And these two are already bickering back and forth, so it's going to be intense. and then on top of that, you throw in Georgia. They got a pretty good ball club this year. So that's a tough road, man, trying to find those wins in the West.
All right, how about this one? I really like this one too, Shay. This will be under the radar. South Carolina, 3.5. And that's such a low number. That's why I like it. I think, and given their look at their non-conference here, Shane. Well, of course, they got to play damn Clemson. But Eastern Illinois.
Victory.
At East Carolina.
Victory.
And Troy.
Victory.
So, hell, we just got to win one more game, boys. And
that's it.
We got Kentucky at home. We got Vanderbilt at home. Well, at Missouri will be tough. But hell, I mean, man, I don't know who set this number, but you basically got to pull one upset. And not even an upset, because you got to figure that South Carolina is going to be favored against Vanderbilt, but you got to avoid getting upset basically in your non-conference and beat Vanderbilt, and you hit that over.
Yeah, I think this is the year Clemson starts sucking again too. So hopefully it'd be that one. I know that's a tall order, but man, that'd be really nice if they could close out the season with a victory over them. But that's a small number. So you're looking at 4 victories. I like that. That's a good bet.
All right, and then the final 2, I'm putting these in their own category, Shane, because I'm uber confident. We've only got 2 teams left on the board here. Georgia, 10.5, and LSU, 8.5. I don't see any way, the way it's playing out right now, the way how I regard these teams, I don't think there's any way LSU or Georgia, LSU 8.5, Georgia 10.5. I don't think there's any way they don't reach those. What are your thoughts on that?
Can I ask you again? I hate to go back. What was Alabama's?
They are at 11.5, so they have to go perfect.
Maybe I was wrong about that one.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough to go undefeated because, I don't know, man. I just got this weird feeling it's going to be A&M and the Bulldogs. It's way too early, Mike. I know I'm not telling you go out there and put your bets out there yet. But, I'm very confident with I told you a million times I think this is Georgia's year. This got to be Georgia's year. If it doesn't, then I cannot wait. I have got a whole folder full of jokes and memes ready to send out if Georgia fails, because Kirby should not fail. LSU, I think this is a bounce back season. I felt like they had it at the tail end. I've said that a million times. I kept whispering about that I think LSU's going to be sneaky good this year, but then that seems like everybody else is doing it. So I kind of got off that wagon, because I don't want to sound like everybody else, but I really do. I really do think that they have no trouble finding 9 wins this season. They've got the talent for it. And I mean, granted, they got a tough schedule, but yeah, everybody's got a tough schedule in the SEC.
Right. Yeah. The only way I could see these, I mean, maybe if Georgia, there's some kind of epic collapse against Clemson, and it exposes them or something, and then they'd only have to lose one more to not make it. But I don't think that's going to happen. And the only thing with LSU would be, obviously last year was such a disaster, but so many things had to go wrong for that to happen. I just don't think, you're going to have 10 things go wrong with players opting out and coaches leaving and everything and coaching disasters left and right. So, yeah, I'm very confident in LSU, very confident in Georgia.
And I don't know about you, Mike. Gambling, I love to gamble. You guys know this. And there's something about picking some of these, like you mentioned earlier, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, whatever. There's something I love about gambling on teams like that than I would a team like Georgia, especially when we're talking about over-unders. It's like you're going to know pretty soon if you're doing a South Carolina and then they get those non-conference and then they're 3-0. It's like, oh baby, I just need one more. And every weekend, you're like, is this the weekend I'm going to make my money? Georgia, you're more playing defensive, like, oh my God, don't blow this one. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I love it when you're talking about bigger picture, whole season bets. I love doing the smaller ones, just because it seems like you could cash in on those earlier than later.
Yeah, absolutely. So take this advice while it's hot. Well, these sports books are not all over these college football lines at the moment. Now's the time to get you some value because once people start jumping on these lines, they're gonna change quite a bit. I think by the time the season rolls around.
Absolutely. I'd like to get on here at some point and talk about Heisman hopefuls too, because now's a good time if you're thinking a team's going to pop and there's a player on there, typically a quarterback, and you're like, yeah, I think he's going to lead it. Now's the time to put the bets in. Now, if you're just picking somebody that, that's on every excuse my language, that's on every damn cover of the magazine, just don't waste your time. That one's probably going to change, 3-4 weeks in. But if there's a dark horse team that you've been thinking about, this is also the time I like to put in my Heisman bets.
Well, Shane, I think you just gave us an idea for next week. How about that?
I love it.
Well, all right, buddy. Hey, we've spieled on long enough here. You got anything before we hop off?
No, it's good talk to you. I'm glad you enjoyed your vacation. Glad to have you back. We're getting closer there, guys. We're got the countdown. We're in the 70s. We're going to be in the 60s again. If you got a number coming up and you're like, hey, don't forget this play, send it over to that SEC podcast because, I love combing through these plays. Mike, I sent you how many yesterday for 74? I sent you about 8 of them, and you chose the first one I sent over. And it's hard not to. The Bluegrass Miracle, that was a hell of a game. But I love it. I love the countdown because there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting there. So just hang out with us. It's off season. I know it's a little slow, but we get some news. We'll get out there as soon as we can. And hopefully we'll start ramping up our show production closer we get to fall camp.
Well, Shane, glad to be back. Glad to be sharing the latest around the SEC. And like you said, the best is yet to come. So I can't wait for it. And, that's a great place to wrap it up, Shane. So appreciate you hopping on here with me. Appreciate each and every one of you hanging out. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.
Yeah, I can't wait for it, man. So, hey, let's jump off here while we still got voice in our lungs here. But what? That's so weird.
I don't. Oh man, put it on the reel. You still on that Colorado time? That wacky tobacco up there.
I'll put that definitely on the blue.